Welcome to the KidzMatter podcast. This is Ryan Frank, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you tuned into our last podcast last week, I answered the question, where is Beth, Corey, and Nicole? Because if you've been listening to the KidzMatter podcast for very long, you know that the KidzMatter podcast has always been hosted by Ryan and Beth and our friends Corey and Nicole Jones. But if you missed the last podcast, let me just let you know that we are having some changes in the house, and they're good changes. We are launching a brand new membership site called KidzMatter Pro. Now, we've already had KidzMatter Pro for several years, but we are launching a brand new, super improved KidzMatter Pro that includes a member-only podcast. So the four of us are moving from hosting the KidzMatter podcast that you're listening to right now, and we are going to begin hosting the KidzMatter Pro member-only podcast. And the KidzMatter podcast is changing a little bit. Instead of being a monthly podcast, it is now an every week podcast where I am hosting the podcast and interviewing someone that's going to help you lead kids and families well. Now, before I introduce today's podcast, let me just give you a little bit more of a teaser about the brand new KidzMatter Pro. So, Lord willing, on April 2nd, just 2 days after Easter Sunday, we are going to be launching a brand new KidzMatter.com that's going to include a brand new membership site for KidzMatter Pro, and you are going to love this. We are going to be unpacking a brand new resource for you called the KidzMatter Playbook, and we're going to teach this through the year in KidzMatter Pro. In the KidzMatter Playbook, we've identified 3 foundations that are needed to lead a healthy, growing ministry. And from those 3 foundations, 12 progress points or habits that you need to build into your life and into your ministry for you to grow and be healthy, not only personally as a leader, but for your ministry to be growing and healthy. And we're going to be teaching this through the year in KidzMatter Pro. I'm going to be teaching a monthly class called a mastery module. We're going to be doing a monthly master class from somebody outside of our organization. We're going to be doing a members-only podcast where we talk about the topic. We're going to be doing member makeovers. Those are going to be so fun, where we take a KidzMatter Pro member and we help them make over some kind of an area in their ministry that they're really struggling with or a challenge that they're facing. We're going to have a leadership library, a volunteer library, and so much more. You're going to love it. Stay tuned. If you don't get our KidzMatter emails, go to kidminnews.com and get signed up. That way you can stay connected. And one other thing you can do is follow my reels on Instagram and on Facebook. If you're not following me on Instagram, I'm at RyanFrank75. I've been every day doing behind-the-scenes reels, bringing you up to speed on the latest and greatest with the brand new KidzMatter Pro launch. Once we launch on April 2nd, you'll have 30 days to test it entirely free, and I have a feeling a lot of you are going to want to stay because it truly is amazing. Unlike anything I've ever seen in kids ministry, and I've been doing this my whole life. And I'm not just saying it because we've created it. It truly is a remarkable program that's going to help you lead and lead well. Now, on today's podcast, I had the opportunity to speak with Craig Johnson. Craig is one of the executives at Lakewood Church in Houston. He is also the founder of Champions Club. Champions Club is a global ministry that is equipping local churches to minister to kids and families that have been impacted by special needs. The title of our podcast today is Champions for Inclusion. We talked about the state of special needs ministry in the church today. What are some unique challenges and opportunities that we face when ministering to families impacted by special needs? We discussed practical ways that we can create inclusive environments, what to do to get other people in your church excited about special needs ministry, and so much more. We ended the podcast by talking about the Bible character Jehoshaphat. What a great story. And I can't wait for you to listen in. Once again, thank you for tuning into the KidzMatter podcast. With no further ado, here is my conversation with Craig Johnson. Hey, what's up, Craig? Welcome to the podcast. Great to see you.
Man, it's always good to be with you, Ryan. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, the blessing is mine. And I'm so thankful that you've squeezed me into your schedule because, we're friends on Facebook and you're just traveling like mad these days, and God is opening up all kinds of great doors. And I know as we're recording this, you were in Peru last week, you're heading to Poland tomorrow. And I'm so grateful that you've taken just a few minutes to chat with all of these kids pastors and myself on the podcast today. At the end, I want to give everybody an update on what's going on with your ministry, Champions Club. I know God is opening doors. More and more churches are, leveraging your ministry to, reach and impact kids and families that have disabilities. And so I'm excited to jump into that. And today's topic is, of course, something very close to our hearts and very close, I know, to your heart, you and your wife, Sam, and your ministry, and that is special needs. And I'm calling this podcast Champions for Inclusion. I don't know if that's a good name or not, but I know you love it, Champions. I love the name Champions Club. And this is something that we really need to be talking about as pastors and ministry leaders. So let's just jump in, Craig. Will you talk to me about, you're traveling a lot. You are working with so many churches, pastors, leaders. Give me, from your perspective, the current state of special needs ministry in the church today. How's it looking? Brutally honest.
Well, I mean, well, we're making some progress. The challenge is that there's so many more families now, and because it's taken the church so long to respond. Now, even with autism, now it's 1 in 36 kids being diagnosed with autism in America.
Is it really?
So it is, and that's from the CDC. So now you're looking at all these young families, and they are getting this diagnosis or starting to know something is shifting for their child, and they're asking, "What do I do next?"
Yeah.
And so it's honestly overwhelming for society, and it's overwhelming for the church. But I really believe this: the church is the answer, because yes, you need development is so important, and I think the church can help develop them. But I think what they need more than anything else is support, hope, and feeling like their child and their family has a future. And that's what the church can give to them. And we just need more churches to step up. And what's great now, Ryan, is that what you provide through your services, through the conferences, through amazing organizations, and what we provide. Listen, this isn't hard to do like it was 20 years ago. Man, we can help you guys right where you're at from the very beginning all the way to launch.
I love that you said that, Craig, because Beth and I were just talking about that the other day with somebody, a kid's pastor. And that is that I think there's still a conception that this is hard to do. Like, it is a rock I do not know how to push, a mountain I don't know how to climb. And the reality is there are so many resources now, and even beyond the resources that are available. I think of our daughter Lucy with a special need, and really what we need is just somebody to be her friend and walk with her around the church and read some Bible verses to her, talk to her. That's not that hard, is it, Craig?
Right.
It's really not.
No.
People just love and accept these kids and be their friends.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And listen, there's always ministries where you have to come alongside and maybe go a little more than what other ministries do. But those type of ministries are so rewarding. It changes your church, it changes your ministry, it changes you. But if you don't try, if you don't experience that, and what I found to be true now is that I don't know if we have a choice, Ryan, because now if we're saying we want to reach our community and we want to reach people, I think now we've got to begin to do that little extra, I've heard many children's pastors pastors say, listen, we don't have enough volunteers for our typical kids.
Hmm.
How, are we going to help special needs? And
Hmm.
this is a ministry. And I say, listen, it's not plus or minus. God has grace for this. He'll provide, leaders when you provide the ministry.
Yes.
And that's been true in everywhere that I've went. And also what's great is ministries like ours, we can teach you how to recruit. We can teach you how to build teams.
Yeah.
And that's what's great today is that you have all these resources, but these families need it so much. And it's transformational for them, Ryan.
Yeah. Would you agree? Beth and I say quite a bit that the largest unreached people group today are kids and families impacted by special needs, at least in the United States. I mean, maybe globally. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, because it's not that these families may not know Christ. It's the fact that they're not going to church. They're
Yes.
they're shut in.
Hmm.
And most of them feel victimized by it.
Hmm.
And of course, the church can change that, because what the church can do is first help these families understand what God says about their child, and then help them understand that hey, it's not over, the vision's not done, your life isn't over, that these
Hmm.
kids have a bright future. And look what God's doing with Lucy. I mean, really, where you move from victim to victor is when you start being good to someone else, even while you're going through your storm.
So true.
And I've watched you guys do that. I've
Mm.
watched, not just, okay, we're gonna just try to work through this. No, you guys are saying, this is my girl, and my girl's
Yeah.
going to impact our church. She's going to impact the community,
Yeah.
and we're going to do certain things to allow that, like the car wash and
Yeah.
different things that you guys do. Man, that
Yeah.
just inspires families. Well,
Mm.
the church can be a conduit for that for so many other kids,
Yep.
and can inspire these families to get out of that victim stage and get to that victor stage where they start helping other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Craig, in addition to leading this growing, now global ministry called Champions Club, I know you're involved in the leadership at Lakewood Church, and Beth and I so admire you and your family and Pastor Joel and just your ministry. Lakewood has a great ministry to special needs families, but was it always like that? Or will you talk to us about that? Like, what, I think you were a part of that early on. What was the catalyst, and what were some of those first steps you guys took that now you've got this ministry that other churches look to as an example of how to do special needs?
Yeah, at that time, I think we were the largest single church in America, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yet we had a room with about 10 individuals, and we didn't know what to do really. We were just trying to do our best. So we
Hmm.
were just like everybody else, and what's crazy. And but it was when I would they were gracious to us because we were pastors. So we bring Connor, and Connor would be sitting in the corner of the classroom, and then you got 20 other kids over here. Teacher
Hmm.
didn't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
And then God just spoke to me. He said, Craig, those kids deserve the very best, just like every other child.
Yeah.
And he said, when you look in these kids' eyes, and he says, who you're looking at is you're looking at me, because when you do it unto the least of these, you do it unto
Mm.
me. He said, favor will follow you in your church when you begin to reach out to these families. And
Yeah.
that stuck with me when God said,
Yeah.
Craig, the world may forget families like ours, but I'm not going to. And
Hmm.
if I can get some children's pastors out there, if I can get some pastors out there with a heart to just step out in faith and let me show them what to do,
Yeah.
and that's what we did. We stepped out in faith, and we put together a really uh, a task force of researchers, medical doctors,
Hmm.
and educators, and special needs parents, and then our ministry, and we began to just figure it out. Ryan, it wasn't like this brilliant thing,
Yeah.
but after the year of us trying to figure it out, we go, oh wow, we've got something, a holistic approach, and this would really develop a child where it's not just caring for them, but it's pointing them to their destiny.
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
so yeah, we were just like everybody else, and really, even our evolving has been more of, okay, we saw the need and we responded to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's all it was. It wasn't like we had it all together. We knew what to do. But now what's cool is that you don't have to figure it out now.
Hmm. That's
You know,
true, isn't
like
it? Yeah.
Champions Clubs plug and play. So
Yep.
you can start, or Johnny and Friends, or you
Yeah.
guys, you know, hey, you've I think of Marie Cook,
Yeah.
you know, with her
Nathaniel's
organ,
Hope.
Nathaniel's
Yep.
Hope.
Yep.
That's another one. I mean, there are just so many out there that can come along their side and help them do it.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that back then, but we have so many resources now.
Now, did you find that when the church got serious about this and you started to let people know, hey, you're welcomed, accepted here, we love you here, that the people, they started to come?
Yeah, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
Uh, we had 300 families come in the first 6 months
Wow.
just to check out Champions Club.
Wow.
And what was cool was, you know, Joel was so like right away.
Hmm.
This is the heart of God. Let's do that. I can't tell you how rare that is. Even
You're right.
today, you know, it's not. It's for pastor just to respond that way. You have to kind of, in some ways, convince them. But Joel was right away. Well,
Yeah.
what we found out when a pastor embraces it, and when the church embraces it, it becomes a huge part of the church. Now, I'd say Champions Club is one of the top 3 ministries at Lakewood.
Is it really?
So they so embrace these families. And here's the cool thing. Those first families, those first early adopters, now they're some of our greatest families, not just in Champions Club, but greatest families in the church.
Hmm.
They volunteer the most, they give the most, they serve in different capacities. And so pastor looks at now as, man, if we wouldn't have started that, what would have happened to our church culture if we would have started that? And then it shows the church unconditional love and just how these kids and families change you more than you really change them.
Yeah. What an inspiring story. And how did you guys come up with the name Champions Club? I've always loved that name since the first time I heard it. Do you remember how you came up with that idea or that name?
Yeah, the church had a saying, discover the champion in you. And it was kind of some of the commercials that Lakewood did.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about, well, you know, who's a champion? Who would God look at as a champion?
Yeah.
And God would say, everybody's a champion, you know, and especially a special needs child, because he would look at him as a masterpiece, fearfully and wonderfully made. And I go, so many negative connotations have been put on special needs. And even in the church, they've been looked down on. So I'm going to call them who God calls them.
Yeah.
I'm going to say who God says they are. Even if everybody else doesn't, I'm going to say who God says they are.
I love that.
And I'm going to speak that over the kids. I'm going to speak that over the families. This is who you are. No matter what you've heard in society, no matter what you've heard from family members, no matter what you've heard out there in the world, this is who God says you are. And then I'm going to help point you to your destiny, and I'm going to help you navigate how to get there. So we call them who God says they are.
I love it. Craig, what would you say you work with pastors and ministry leaders all the time, every day. What would you say to maybe a kids pastor out there, or, you know, youth pastor that's listening or watching today, and they get it? Maybe God has put this in their heart. Maybe they were at the conference last year, or, you know, God has used something to impress on them that as a church, we need to be doing more. What's a good first step to really equip, like to pass this vision on to volunteers, other church staff, the pastor? What would you say to somebody that has this on their heart, but the church still needs to get it? What step would you take?
Yeah. Don't start a special needs ministry. That's what I say. Now, I know it sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
No, passion is more powerful when you put a name and face to it. So identify a family in your church, or a family that's tried to come to your church and you didn't have the resources for them. Tell their story. Tell why starting a special needs ministry will impact this family. Let them tell you why. and begin to tell them their story, and then present that to your pastor, present that to your volunteers, present that to the church. Listen, people only go so far for special needs ministry, but for a child or family that this will impact, man, maybe they'll go to the ends of the earth for that. So I always say, start with the family, start with a story, and begin to tell that story. And that's what will change a pastor's heart, the church's heart, or a volunteer's heart.
I love that, Craig. I know we talked about Lakewood a little bit, but you have another story of maybe a church that has started a Champions Club, or a church that has decided to get really serious about loving and accepting these families that have been impacted by disability or special needs, and how God has blessed it? You have a story you could share?
Yeah, I think about one of the last ones we launched in Phoenix, and this mother and family had tried to bring their special needs family for years, and she just struggled being in the service, just struggled being a part, and they and she's nonverbal, but she would communicate through her little iPad, how she felt, and so they stopped coming. They basically stopped coming. And just last November, we launched the Champions Club there. And the little girl, she's a teenager now, and she's in the Champions Club, and she's experiencing acceptance and inclusion, and she writes on their home. Home. This is my home now.
Does she really?
And and she tells them she wants to come every week. This is my home.
I love that.
And watching her parents do that when we launched it, and watching her parents' response, because they wanted to come, but she never had a place for her.
Yeah. I love that.
And she said home.
It doesn't.
And I just thought, wow.
That's so special.
I just thought, how many other kids they want to be a part, but they even they feel excluded in some way.
Yeah.
And if we just provide this opportunity, how much they'll come home and be a part of the church.
How neat. Craig, as we start to wrap up, we've talked about Champions Club. I would love for you to take a few minutes, give us an update. Maybe first of all, even step back. And I know there's Champions Club at Lakewood, but God has given you this vision and this ministry of helping other churches start Champions Club. So will you tell us, what's it mean to start a Champions Club? What is this ministry? And then let's go ahead and tell people how they can learn more, how they could talk to someone on your team about starting a Champions Club. Will you unpack it for us for a few minutes?
Yeah, really easy. A Champions Club is a holistic approach. So we want to develop the child holistically. So mind, body, soul, and spirit.
Okay.
So those are the 4 ways you develop holistically. So that's why there's 4 stations with a Champions Club. There's a physical therapy, there's a sensory, there's a creative learning station, kind of education, and there's a spirit station. And so we develop them within those 4 stations, and you could take those 4 stations and you could put them in one single room. You could put 2 stations in one room, one classroom, 2 stations in another. Amazing thing is, you take typical classrooms and transform them into Champions Clubs. And so we have the model, we have the curriculum, we have the training, and we have the equipment. And so all we ask of a church is we say 2 things. Number 1, do you have a space? If you have a space, and we'll work on designing that space for you to have a Champions Club based on whatever budget you have. The beautiful thing is, you can start a Champions Club with as little as $750, or then you can make them as elaborate as you want, and they're both effective. Yeah. The second thing we ask is, do you have somebody that has a heart to lead this ministry? And I'm not looking necessarily for expertise. I'm just looking for heart, because I can teach expertise. If they have expertise, it's a win, but don't worry about if they don't. And then those are the two questions we ask. And then even if they don't have somebody right now, we help them find that person.
I love that. I love that.
So we start with that, and then we work with them every step of the way to launch a Champions Club. It usually takes about 3 months. Overseas, it takes more time, but we now have 115 in 25 countries, and so we can launch them in any type of space and environment. Yeah.
How neat. God just keeps blessing. And Craig, remind me what your website is. Championsclub.org.
Championsclub.org.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And if you go there, you can learn about the curriculum. If somebody wants to ask questions, they can contact somebody on the Champions Club team, right? Schedule a phone call or have a conversation. Friends, go check out championsclub.org. I am so grateful, Craig, for you and your wife, Samantha, and everybody who has jumped on board of this ministry and this team, just to not only raise the flag that special needs ministry is important, but then putting a tool in people's hand to, hey, there really are no excuses why you can't do this. Go make it happen. And God's blessings will follow as you do. Please go check out championsclub.org. Craig, I'm so grateful for how God is using you. And I know you are humble and you're open-handed. And I believe the more open-handed you are, God just keeps blessing y'all with more and more favor. So we're going to keep praying favor over your family and your ministry and every church that starts a Champions Club. Craig, I love to end the podcast always with these two questions. One, I'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite Bible story and what makes it your favorite?
Yeah. My favorite Bible story is 2 Chronicles 20 and Jehoshaphat. And when they're being attacked by the three armies. And this is how we feel a lot of time in ministry.
Yep.
and many times in life. It's, when it rains, it pours, it's never just one.
Yep.
And I just love what Jehoshaphat did. Is the number one thing he began to do is he began to pray, and he began to just call out to God. And then God used this guy named Jehazel, and he said, "The battle's not yours, the battle's the Lord." And then he gave him a plan. He didn't just give him a declaration like that. He gave him a plan. He said, "I want you to go to where you're supposed to fight. Yeah. I want you to give me praise and honor." He said, "I want you to stand there and watch me do it." And sometimes we're fighting battles that God was meant to fight. So I really believe that when we allow God to fight our battles, he'll do what he did for Jehoshaphat. He'll wipe out the three armies, and he'll give you more plunder than you can contain as you walk away.
Isn't God good like that? He is.
Yes, he is.
All right. And then, Craig, second question I always like to end the podcast with, what's something big that Craig Johnson's working on right now?
Yeah, well, we know we can't start enough Champions Clubs around the world to reach all the people that's affecting. So just pray with us. We're about to launch a family membership for families that can get services and resources straight to their home, straight to them. And so it's a big endeavor that, a parent in Zambia or a parent in Indiana can get help right where they're at, even if they can't get to a Champions Club. So we're about to launch this year.
What kind of help? What kind of resources?
Oh, everything. So one, they're going to get Sam and I on a regular basis. And we're going to lay out a 5-step success plan on developing and helping you and your family and your child become everything God's created you to be. And it's based on really the things and how we respond to things. Now, where they said our son would never speak, now he speaks. Now, where they said our son would never have a job, he has a job. Where they say never live outside the home. So we take people on this success plan. And we're going to help them. And it might look different, than ours, but they're still going to see success.
That's awesome. I think the last time we talked, Connor just got a job at Whataburger or something like that, or Chick-fil-A. Was it
No, Whataburger. Yeah, and
Whataburger?
he's celebrating 2 years.
Is that right?
Yes.
How neat.
Yeah.
Does he love going to
He,
work?
he does. He loves going to work. He about 6 months ago he got a raise and a promotion, and so
Did
he's
he?
moved from yeah, he's moved from separating the chicken nuggets and onion rings, and now he does all the boxes and sets everything up, and he has all different types of responsibilities now, and so it's really cool to see him flourish there.
How neat. That makes me so happy. I love it. God's so good. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Craig Johnson. Craig's an active part of the leadership team at Lakewood Church and also is leading this wonderful global ministry called Champions Club. Please go check out championsclub.org. Prayerfully consider maybe you ought to start a Champions Club. If nothing else, go to championsclub.org so that you can pray for Craig and everybody who's a part of this ministry and these churches that are starting Champions Clubs. Craig, thank you so much for your time. You're a great friend and brother in Christ, and I love you and your family dearly. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Ron. Thank you for all you do, man. You're such a blessing to the kingdom.
You as well.